everybody. Welcome back to episode 11 of Atypical Art Podcast. I'm your host, Christy, and today I have with me actor and writer Jesse Boone. Hi.
Hello, so good to be here.
If you want to give yourself a little bit of an introduction, name, age, hometown, and where you currently are.
Well, my name is Jesse Boone, and I am 27 years old, originally from Tucson, Arizona, in the desert, where it is very hot right now. And I am currently in Los Angeles, California, in the Van Nuys area.
Awesome. Very cool. So when did you start acting?
I want to say I started acting in high school around sophomore year.
Okay.
I found a local theater in town. I worked with them for about a year and then was able to do it in school because you had to be in the drama class, which had already filled at the time. So I had to wait a year until I finally got in to start doing plays in high school.
Oh no, they didn't have like a club or anything that you could join?
No, the only way you could be a part was you had to actually be in the class. And
Oh
you had to,
no, that's
yeah,
horrible.
that's okay. I got in junior year and never looked back.
Oh, good. Well, that's great. So what kind of inspired you to start taking those classes in acting?
I really love just telling stories. There was something wrong with my childhood, some thankful parental neglect that went unnoticed and uncorrected. Uh, when I was a kid, it's nothing bad. When I was a kid, I used to go outside and play in my backyard and pretend that the sticks were lightsabers or swords or broomsticks for Harry Potter. And I guess you could say that my backyard was sort of like my theater or
Yeah.
my rehearsal room. And the truth is, I never fully grew out of that. So even when I was, yeah, go ahead and laugh. Even when I was in high school, I would still go play outside, but it evolved to a sense where I wanted to vocalize dialogue that I had picked up from a film or from a play, and I would run through scenes in my head. And truthfully, to this day, I don't listen to music much in the car. I just speak out loud and run dialogue from different scenes. I build up a catalog over time. And sometimes I'll just sit at the wheel and talk through a scene from a Tarantino movie or from a Tennessee Williams play.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. So do you have like a lot of movies memorized?
Yes.
Um, What's
I
your
have,
favorite?
oh God, it changes all the time. Um, my favorite film at the moment is a German film called Goodbye Lenin. Do you know that one?
Mm-mm.
Uh, Goodbye Lenin is the story of an East German family back when the Berlin Wall was up and Russia owned East Germany. The Soviet Union owned East Germany. And the mother she's a single mom. She's raising her two kids, and she goes into a coma. And while she's in a coma, the Berlin Wall comes down and Germany is reunited as one single country.
Oh my God.
And Mama was very patriotic about East Germany, which no longer exists.
Oh,
And it was a heart attack that put her into a coma. And the doctor tells the kids, any sudden changes or surprises are going to result in another heart attack.
that's terrible.
And the kids go, the whole country doesn't exist anymore. What are we supposed to tell her? So they keep her indoors and they fake a country. They get their friends to make the news every night. They keep the old decorations. They have comrades that are no longer members of a party that no longer exists come over and visit her. And for about a year, they pass off this charade that East Germany still exists to keep Mom alive.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's very sweet. And one day, Mama sneaks outside because she suspects something.
Oh no.
There's an iconic shot where she steps outside, looks to the right, and a construction helicopter flies by carrying a statue of Lenin away, and it looks as though the statue is reaching out to her as it passes. That's why it's called Goodbye Lenin.
Oh no. Oh my God. That sounds great. When
It's
was
sweet.
it like when was it like made?
2003.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I'll have to look
And
that one up. That sounds great.
yeah.
Um, so that's cool. Yeah, I recently went to I don't remember what it was. We were watching some sort of play or something, and I was thinking back to when I did theater in high school, and I was like, how do these people remember all these lines and everything? I was like, oh wait, I did, I guess, like at one point in time. Now I can't remember anything. Um, but so when did you decide to make acting your career instead of just like taking classes and, having fun with it? I mean, I'm sure you still have fun with it, but
I do, yeah. I love having fun with it.
good.
I want to say early senior year of high school was when it really hit me that this is what I wanted to do full time.
Cool.
It wasn't going to be easy, but I knew that the path I wanted to take was getting accepted into some kind of acting school in college. So I spent the better part of senior year researching and auditioning for different colleges, different campuses. And that's actually what first brought me to LA. Was I stayed at a hotel by LAX, and every room in the hotel for this convention was a different school. So I would go into people's rooms and audition my future
Oh,
away.
wow. That
Which
sounds cool.
it sounds really sketchy out of context, but just the way the colleges worked.
The thing, it's what you do for acting. I feel like the whole thing is just kind of a scary, sketchy situation. So what did you decide? Where did you go?
Well, being an Arizona boy, I wanted to stretch my horizons and audition for schools all over the world, and ended up going to the one right in Arizona.
That's great.
I went to the University of Arizona and I entered their BFA acting program.
Cool. How was that?
Um, it was unique and a very eye-opening experience for me, because the truth is I only lasted a year until I got cut. So it taught me a lot about self-reliance, and that I was kind of going to have to go outside the box, and I wasn't always going to get my way, which I feel like at some point everybody learns that
Mm-hmm.
in this field. Everybody gets the sales taken away from them. And I'm truthfully kind of grateful that it happened sooner than later.
Yeah.
So also, it allowed me to enter the BA program instead of the BFA. And the BFA is a very tight-knit group that mainly does their own shows. They don't do a lot of outside work. Whereas the BAs are more free to take up more local work, and they're free to take work with the film department. And that is when I really started working in film
Okay.
and realized just how much I preferred that over theater.
Okay. Okay. That's good. That was actually one of my other questions. Do you still do theater stuff, or you're strictly film now?
I'm mostly film now. The last play I did was 2016. It was the first American production of the show King Charles III.
Okay. Cool. Very cool. So because I found you through Anthony, who was a guest on, I think, my second episode. When did you go to New York City and find him and what he's doing?
I found Anthony. I love Anthony. I was talking to him this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And strangely enough, I forgot to tell him that I was doing this today. So I'll be sure to let him right after this.
That's so funny. I saw he was out by the pool this morning, so I didn't want to bother him,
Oh, well, please bother him. Always bother him. When I graduated with my BA in 2015, I knew I wanted some postgraduate studies.
Mhm.
And the New York Conservatory of Dramatic Arts was a really good film school in New York that had interested me for a while. I went to New York in 2013 and did their summer program.
Cool.
And I loved the teachers, I loved their style, and I auditioned and got accepted to go there. And thanks to my degree, was able to transfer straight into the second year,
Oh, awesome.
which stuck me to poor Mr. Rouse and all the interactions we've had since. And yeah, he's one of my best friends.
Oh, that's sweet. What films did you do with him?
We did a short that was actually set in black and white and a silent film.
I saw that one.
You saw that one? Two idiots walk into a bar.
Good.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. That was the first time I'd say I worked with him.
Okay.
He was the DP on a web series pilot that I started to shoot. It was called Reimagination.
Okay.
And then the big project Anthony and I worked on was I acted in his first feature film called Northwoods,
Yes.
which was a horror film that we shot exclusively in Central Park.
Very cool. I heard a
Yeah.
lot about that one in his episode. So you've done theater, you've done TV, you've done like smaller films. Like which do you prefer and how are they different, like film wise and like rehearsing and all that?
Film is weird because film almost has no rehearsal time. You're not meeting up with your co-stars a lot. Truth be told, you don't even meet a lot of your co-stars until the day of.
Oh wow.
You've never seen their face. You've never run the lines with them.
Hmm.
And that's why whenever I take acting lessons out here and work with a coach, I always shy away from the ones that encourage rehearsal time because you don't get it in real life, not for film. I think a lot of theater people with theater backgrounds are used to that, and I definitely see the merits of that working with theater. With film, I kind of prefer not meeting them until the day of, just because I feel it's the most practical.
Just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was it working with an acting coach? What is that like?
I love acting coaches here in LA. There are several that I would easily recommend to people. And truth be told, this is just my 2 cents. I would recommend to anyone listening out there, go to a coach or a conservatory. Don't study at a university.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. And of course, there are exceptions. I feel that unless you're going to NYU, Juilliard, Yale, or Carnegie Mellon, you're probably better off not doing a university for acting. And I don't regret doing it at a university. I mean, that's how I met my fiance.
No.
But I feel that the quality of training and one-on-one attention
Mm,
and scraping away the extra fluff that a curriculum forces you to have,
right.
I think you're better off with a coach or a conservatory.
Okay.
And people will look at the coaches out here and they're like, oh, wow, the coaches are so expensive. I can't afford $300, $400, $500, $600 for a few months of classes. And my response is, yeah, well, do you want to spend tens of thousands of dollars at a college
Yeah,
that doesn't get
school
you a
is more expensive than that by a lot.
yeah. You aren't stuck with student loans at the end of the coaches.
Yeah. And I think I went to a very small college. Like I knew all my professors and stuff, and I wasn't doing acting, but all my art teachers and stuff like that, like I had a very close relationship with all of them. And I found that to be helpful because it's a very like vulnerable thing, like learning in general. You don't want to mess up, but like acting and art is like, it's like a really weird, like, dynamic, I guess. And to learn all that too. Do you think that When did you have them? Like, when in your career did you go to acting coaches? Was it right after school?
It was after the conservatory, yeah. So I feel like a lot of training from college and the conservatory settled into me.
Hmm.
There's several lessons that take a few years to really sink in.
Right.
And I'm sure that foundation made me more ready for the coaches. I just like working with a smaller class, a more personal coach. And what I love best about coaches in LA is that they're actually here in LA. They're at the front lines of this stuff. They're the first ones to know when there are changes in the industry, changes that casting directors are asking for. Um, I'd rather learn from someone that's out here and even someone that's still actively booking roles than someone that was on Broadway 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Do you think that they helped you? Like, did they help you find different things to audition for, or is that a separate person that would help you, like an agent or something?
My auditions have mainly come from my manager and my agent.
Hmm.
But I would say that the coaches have definitely coached me for specific auditions. They've told me specific people to reach out to. Some of them like to discuss type, and based on what type you are, the kinds of shows and genres that you're more of a fit for naturally.
Hmm.
Um, One of my favorite coaches is a guy named Graham Shields. And what I love about him is he'll alternate every week between scene study and audition technique.
Cool.
And then once a month, he'll bring in a casting director or
Oh,
he'll bring in an agent and they'll just watch you work. They don't have a guarantee of a job, but they they put you on their radar.
oh wow, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Shout out to Graham Shields.
So how do you like get into a character? Like, do you have any like sort of rituals or anything like that that you kind of like help you to like detach from yourself and become that role?
I start with the happy memories, um, what this person cares about. I think of memories, especially pertaining to the relationships that they have in the script. If I'm doing a scene with my quote unquote mother, what are the good memories of that relationship? What is the stuff that's made me care? Because even if it's contentious, there's always good. Um, and I feel that when you really make it specific what you care about and the history that you have with this person, that naturally will help the stakes of the scene. If you're supposed to be upset or angry, starting with the positive ensures that you have something to really be angry about, something that you feel is being taken away.
Okay.
Um, I also I feel like everything comes from the relationship. The stakes come from there. I feel that that really informs how you speak to this person, what you say and what you don't say.
Hmm.
You could have a scene where people are arguing. One of them says at the beginning, "I'm leaving," but then they don't leave and they stay and have the rest of the scene. And it's up to you to determine, why don't you leave? Why do you stay? What's the positive fight that you're fighting for?
Right. That's
Yeah.
good. That's really good advice. I did look up the Netflix movie that you were in.
Oh, yes.
I
What
started
a
to watch
surprise.
that. It was very intense.
Yeah, the Reliant was very intense.
Yeah, how was that? I want to hear all about that.
So originally it was called The Why, and I think that was just a name that they penciled in, and it was something I found on Actors Access.
Hmm.
And when I got the sides for it, it's a good 3-4 pages, and I have, I think, 2 lines towards the end. And it's interesting because I thought, okay, so they want to see 4 pages but I only say like a couple lines. So I need to make sure that the rest of the scene is active and that I'm not just standing there
Right.
waiting for my lines to come. And there was no reference of this in the scene itself, but the character breakdown said that my character has a machete and everybody else in this script has a gun, but I, for some reason, have a machete, which I don't think is going to be of much help if we ever fight. But I said, okay, well, why don't I get because I've got a pretty big meat knife in my kitchen. So I thought, okay, well, why don't you just take the meat knife and you're cleaning it and just clean, look up, acknowledge other people, but just clean that knife. That's a business you can do. That's a simple reality of doing. And then just say your lines. And so it was very simple, but yet it was active.
Right.
And I was told that the producer slash writer's wife saw my tape and really liked the machete part and said, "That's the guy. That's Chris."
That's great. Well, I was wondering, I was like, that, I don't even know. I feel like sometimes maybe background acting is almost harder because, like, they were like shooting people in that scene and it was like scary and you just had to hang out in the background and you were like moving around and stuff. Like I was like watching you. Um, but yeah, that was intense.
Yeah, yeah. It was intense. It was how I got SAG eligible. I had a good experience with the people there. Uh, it's a unique film, I'd say. Um,
How long did filming take for you?
I was there 5 days, and it sucks because I apparently got there just as Kevin Sorbo left.
Oh no.
Because I wanted to meet him. Everybody else said he was really sweet. He's the number one on the call sheet, but he would go out to eat with everybody. He didn't just hide in his hotel room.
Aw.
Everyone said Kevin was sweet, and I thought, oh, of course he was. That's why I missed it. That's how it always works.
Thanks. No. We're gonna pause for 1 second.
You got it.
So do you ever have like two different jobs going on at once?
Yes, and I've even had. Wait, when you say jobs, do you mean shooting gigs?
Yeah, like acting roles or writing as well.
Writing usually happens all the time, all over the place. I just have time and I stay up really late, which years of working in the bars have trained my brain for. I'm able to stay up super late.
Yeah.
Shooting, yeah, I had two shoots. I want to say it was Easter weekend for 2013. Yeah, for 2013, I was shooting a film that was this allegory for fairy tales at a college party.
Okay.
It's a Halloween party, and everyone shows up dressed as a different fairy tale. But then the Snow White figure takes a poison apple via an apple bong,
Oh my god.
and she ends up falling into the pool and gets rescued by the guy who, of course, is dressed as Prince Charming.
Oh my god, that's funny.
And then I, at the same time, was shooting a live action anime. Like it would cut back and forth between the anime and the live action. And it took place at a prestigious boarding school where the female student body president has this fan club of male cheerleaders that follow her everywhere and always have her back. And it's funny because they got three guys that were at least 6'3", 6'4",
Oh my
200 pounds. And then they got me, who's 5'11" and like 170.
god.
So I was kind of like their pipsqueak mouthpiece. And like, you dare disrespect Lady President Kai? to annihilate you. And then we get our butts kicked by the students that are trying to date the student body president. It was, it was a,
So I thought that you only did like action movies and stuff because of that one from Netflix.
no, I'm all over the place. I do comedies, I do thrillers, you name it. I'm there.
That's great. So when you were filming those two very different things at the same time, how did you kind of keep it balanced and like go from one to the other?
Well, thankfully, both productions were aware because they were involved in a film festival that runs for a very limited time. It wasn't the 48-hour film fest that happens here in LA, but it was something like that.
Okay.
Everybody's involved. Everyone is from the same program. They have a limited window to shoot their stuff. So they were very accommodating, but what would happen is I would spend overnight shooting the party one and then instantly drive and shoot all day at the school one in the sunshine. So I stayed up. I just got my coffee now. I stayed up about 48 hours straight,
Oh my God.
just going back and forth from set to set. And this was over Easter weekend. And so we finally finished, I think, at about 2 a.m. I shot from Friday night until about 2 a.m. Easter Sunday.
Oh my God.
And someone said, he is risen. And I'm like, good, because I sure fucking hate it. And I just,
Oh my God. That's so much. How do you
yeah.
deal with scheduling? Like, I know that those two were connected, but like with other jobs, like if you get offered two great roles that you really want to do, like how do you figure that out?
It depends on a conversation with the people that hired me.
Mm,
I'm the kind of guy that no matter what the gig is, I tend to favor the first one that I booked because I gave them my word first.
right.
Um, there's enough fickle people out here. I try to honor my commitments. Um, but I will usually explain, and nowadays it's more through my agent or
Hmm.
through my manager that I have this conversation. But I try to say, hey, I've got this thing that I have to be at this time. Is there any way that you can accommodate me? And usually, if you're not the lead, they can be more accommodating to you and
Right.
more understanding. Um, it's harder sometimes when you're juggling not two shoots, but you're juggling the shoot with your regular job.
Oh,
Um, I had to a couple of years ago. I had to shoot this TV thing, and I had to go straight there from work, and that was the day at work where they told us they were going to fire 9 people, but keep me. So I had to carry the stress of that over to this happy-go-lucky shoot a few hours later, and I just thought, what is my life? Why do I?
God, that's horrible.
How can I balance these kinds of emotions and these kind of circumstances?
God, I can't. Yeah, I always bring this up because it was my biggest, proudest role, but I was Peter Pan in 11th grade of high school. And I remember my teacher always yelling at me, like, if I'd have a bad day, like it showed on my face, and I would be like the most angry little Peter Pan like you've ever seen. And he was like, "You have to be happy and smile." And I was like, I could not do it. All of the like little like hissy fits he threw were way more intense if I had a bad day. Like things would get thrown. Um,
I could always
but
tell where Peter was.
yeah, he's a brat. I don't like him. But what is your auditioning process like?
Uh, I will get an audition notice from my manager or my agent through email.
Okay.
They will tell me what it's for, where I have to be, or if it's a tape, when is it due. Um, so many tapes nowadays.
Yeah.
Everyone knows to be in a room with anybody.
Right.
Um, and then the sides will be attached with a character breakdown. And what I always do is I read all the character breakdowns, not just my own, because if I'm Bob and I'm in a scene with Rob, ooh, terrible name examples. Uh, if I'm Bob and I'm speaking with Jack, I am sure to study and read Jack's breakdown as intensely as my own,
Right,
because Jack is my battery for the entire scene. It's not about me, it's about him.
right.
And what I will often treat it as is if it's the person I'm reading with, the reader, I treat it as though it's their audition, not mine. This is the person that they've hired for the role. I'm just the consultant that's come in to read with them and make sure that they can act. I try to put it off myself as much as I can. And I will usually try and get into the character's headspace before I enter the room.
Mhm.
I'm I'm not a fan really of socializing out in the hall. Uh which is different if I'm reading with somebody. Like
Mm,
if I'm sitting next to Sandra and we're going to go in and read together, I try to talk to her and I try to build a rapport and get used to talking with her, because then we have somewhat of a real relationship to go off of when we enter the room.
right.
Um, what I find helps, because oftentimes you'll go in to read with a reader and the reader will be reading with their 60th person of the day. They're not looking up at you and they're just bored. They're reading every line monotonous. Oh no, don't leave me, Jack. And you have to make a real performance.
Right.
So what I will do is I will look at the reader and I won't start until they look up at me, and they usually do, because they're like, why isn't he speaking? And then as soon as I have their eyes, I say my line. And if they get their nose buried in the page, I will stop, hold the intensity, and then when they look up, I continue. And 9 times out of 10, the casting director picks up on what you're doing.
Right.
Um, you never want to get angry at the reader or anything. They're doing a job and they're reading it a lot more times than you.
Right.
But I find if you can wait until they look up, a lot of the times it will make a real connection with you, and then you can read
Yeah.
off of it better.
That's a good tip.
Also, yeah. And if a reader is stone faced and monotonous, I often use that, because sometimes if I'm trying to get love out of somebody in a scene, what's better to work off than a reader who's not giving you any kind of warmth or comfort
Yeah.
whatsoever? If they're not being friendly, try to make them more friendly using the words on the page. And you don't always have to just be in your head and picture what the reader's doing. You can often use exactly what they're doing, no matter how mundane it appears to be. And
Yeah.
the most important part is they're giving you the most vital thing of all, the line.
Mhm. Absolutely. That's good advice. After going into auditions and maybe like it didn't go so well or you hear back and you didn't get the role you wanted, how do you like keep yourself from not getting discouraged and continuing to go to auditions?
Uh, I'm trying to get better at practicing what I preach, but what I always try to do is I walk into the audition telling myself, you're not getting the part. The reader's got the part. Um, they just need someone to like work off of them. I tell myself I'm the real reader. The other person's got the job.
No.
This is my job, just going in and reading, and nothing follows that. There's no job on the other side, and that's okay. And another thing I'll tell myself before I go in is, oh, remember, they already cast Eddie Redmayne. They just want to see you because you look like him, or whatever you have to tell yourself.
Yeah. And then you get really excited when you get the part.
Yeah, it's a welcome surprise when it happens.
Right.
And I try to audition journal. I will write down who I read for, what kind of project is it, what were the notes I got, when did I go in, and then I use like color coding to say, did I get a callback, did I book it, and then you'll see, oh, it's about if everything's going well, it's about once in every 25 auditions I'll actually get something.
It's a lot of work. I just always think of like, the old-timey movies, old-timey, like from like the 90s where people are like circling stuff in like newspapers and like, going to like all these like really sketchy auditions like you were talking about. But having a manager and like people to help you find them, that's like huge. That's really great that you have that.
Yeah, I've got some sketchy audition stories though. There was this one time I booked the part. It was for a feature film, but it was at it was at a location that they gave me, and I'm like, okay, so I'll go here. And then when I arrive, I realize, is this at the director's house? Which immediately sets off a red flag.
Oh no, we don't like that.
And I knock on the door, and I hear, "Come in." And I walk inside, and the director and the writer are slumped in the couch in a cloud of hookah. And they're like, "Oh, you're here to read for the part?"
No.
Uh-huh.
This is why our parents don't want us to move to LA.
Yeah. Actually, that one happened in Arizona. That didn't even happen in LA. But I will say, though, it ended up being a great experience. I still know the two guys. They're great people. It was just way different than anything that I expected. And I still would recommend to everybody out there, never go to a director's house.
No, no.
I I had an exception, but that is not the norm.
Stranger danger. Oh my God.
Stranger danger.
Tell us about the TV show you're on.
I'm currently on Investigation Discovery's 4th season of Betrayed. I'm in an episode that is strangely enough called Little Shop of Horrors,
Oh.
which was the first musical I ever did in high school.
Oh my
So
God, that's so funny.
thank you, universe. That's a good type of poetry. And Betrayed is a show that takes real cases from years back, and usually the person gets killed, and the episode is spent figuring out who is the murderer, who was the one that killed her. And usually there's about 3-4 suspects per episode. Could it be this person? Could it be that? And the unique thing about the show is that they're always cutting between our dramatizations with real interviews, the real interviews from the real people, from the real detectives. And so you'll see the person that like I'm really supposed to be.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Not me specifically, but with the other roles. I don't believe my real person appears. But
Very cool.
they will show scenes from this person's life before she was killed, and then they'll show scenes from the aftermath. And so you get a sense of, okay, now who is the real killer? And I'm one of the prime suspects.
No.
I worked at a pet shop with the girl. We went on a date and it did not go well at all.
Uh-oh.
I wanted to be her boyfriend, but she kept me in the friend zone. And I did snap, but the question is, how far did I snap?
Did you kill her?
You'll have to watch and find out.
Oh my God, that's great. So check that out. Where can you watch that?
If you have cable, you can pull it up on Investigation Discovery. What I've found is if you have Xfinity, or any type of big service where you can just order the channels, it's like streaming, but they get the channels.
Okay.
And you can pull up Investigation Discovery. The show is Betrayed, and it's season 4, episode 2 or 3, I think. I'm pretty sure it's 2.
Okay. Watch both of them. I'm sure they're both great.
Oh yeah, it's a great show.
Awesome. So we only have a little bit of time left, but tell us about your story with the Blue Man Group.
The Blue Man Group. Oh yes, I think that was my highlight of last year. The TV gig, of course, I wouldn't trade that, but there's nothing quite like auditioning for the Blue Man Group. I got that from my agent and was really surprised because I have a little bit of clowning history, but I'm a bass player. My brother is the drummer.
Okay.
I don't know how to play drums at all. I've been around them my whole life, but I've never tried them. And I saw that they were auditioning for places in the Las Vegas ensemble. And I thought, wow, I can't believe I got this audition. I'm probably not going anywhere with it, but I'm going to do this as though it was my last audition ever. So I had a week in advance, which you never get that time.
Hmm.
You almost always get stuff for the next day or 2 days away. But I thought, wow, I have a whole week to prepare to audition for the Blue Man Group that I saw years ago and loved.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I went and I got my brother on Skype. I took lessons from him. I took a lesson from my fiance's brother because he plays the drums as well.
So you were auditioning for the drums, but you didn't know how to play the drums.
No, I learned how to play the drums in a week, just basic stuff. But I practiced hours a day.
Oh my.
I I ran all these exercises, and I went out and bought sticks and a soundproof pad so that I could bang through the night and not make any noise. I contacted my old clown coach from college, and apparently he had auditioned for it too, which was
Oh, no
exciting.
kidding. That's fun.
Yeah, it's such a small world.
So did they put you in the hair and makeup for the first audition?
No, that was at the very end. I went and auditioned for them, and they invited me to a callback 2 days later.
Okay.
And the callback was actually a 6-hour workshop that was working with active blue men,
Wow.
learning their choreography, running exercises with them, learning how to act, quote unquote, as a blue man, because it's a very specific type of clowning. Um, One phrase that always sticks out with me is that the blue man's gaze is you should never know if they want to kill you or fuck you. That is the language that they use to describe the blue man stare.
Holy shit. Okay.
It's the ultimate wild card. You really don't know what they're thinking. And they made us run all these exercises that have they tell silent stories. I remember one of them was, okay, you guys are kindergartners and your wicked teacher has just stepped outside for a smoke. She's right outside on the other side of the door, and using the items in the classroom, you have to build a weapon that will kill her without speaking because she's right on the other side of that door or making noise. And you only have 1 minute to build your weapon. Go.
What the fuck?
So you have to learn really quickly to work together without words. And that's the thing, is that as choreographed as some of their stuff is, a lot of it is improv, and you never know what they're going to decide, but they have to decide
Yeah.
together, be on the same page. So it was 6 hours of that, and then I made it to another round of callbacks with fewer people there. And it was another 6-hour workshop, and we started learning some of their music. We started learning some of their cereal and Play-Doh skits that they teach. We learned how to stage a Blue Man skit because their names are center, left, and right. And they always have different personalities. One of them's a troublemaker. One of them is the rigorous, come on, let's get to it. And the other one is kind of just this wild card mad scientist that fluctuates from one end to the other. And poor center is usually the one that is the by the book. Come on, let's get this in order. I was mostly the troublemaker.
Oh God.
Yeah, so you have to constantly find mischief to get into with the audience and with your fellow blue men. And it's really crazy because your audience is not 1,000 people in these auditions, your audience is 3 people that are legitimate blue men. And when you stare at them and they stare back, you totally see the stare and like picture them in the makeup. And you're like, wow, I'm staring at this actual blue man. And then I made it to the final round. They saw a couple hundred people originally. And by the time we hit the last callback, there were only 10 of us.
Oh, wow.
And that is when they put us in the makeup. They brought the real makeup artist from Vegas.
Wow.
They put us in 5 at a time, which was hilarious because we had to wait outside this theater that they were renting. And the theater shares a building with a cafe. And the cafe has no wall. So if you're in the cafe, you see the lobby of the theater.
Oh my God.
And if you just people drinking their coffee, they look to the right and there are 5 blue men in full makeup. And we're not allowed to speak. We cannot ruin the reputation of the group. We are not allowed to speak if we are in the makeup. There is no mouth movement. There's no sign language. You have to communicate as a blue man. You
Oh,
never make blue man talk. That is the golden rule.
did you have to stay in the makeup for 6 hours?
I think I probably spent maybe two
Oh, okay.
2 hours. I think we did 2 hours, everybody out of it, and then the first group had their 2 hours in the makeup, and then my group that went last had the makeup for 2 hours.
That's crazy. I'm gonna put a picture of that up on the blog post.
That's sweet.
Sure, so everyone can see.
Yeah, and then the blue men informed me that they really loved what I brought. They said there's an X factor when the makeup goes on. They said that they were seeing it until the makeup went on, and then they said there was some golden thing that just wasn't there once the makeup came on,
Hmm.
which was slightly comforting because as badly as I wanted to get in, it meant that I would have to relocate.
Right.
And um, I was only like 2 months away from proposing to my fiance.
Oh no.
And her career, her life is here. And I thought, what, God, if I book this, going away even for 6 months for a shoot is one thing. But when you're a blue man, that's your full-time job.
Hmm.
And what most people don't know is that there aren't 3 blue men in a city. There's 9.
Oh, okay. And they
They do,
rotate out.
yeah, they do so many shows a week that it's enough for 9 men to have it be their full-time gig.
Wow.
You make 401k, you make a lot of money. It's the most it's the most lucrative version of clown work that there is.
That's so funny. That's cool. I've never seen them. I'll have to try at some point.
You're in New York?
Albany, New York, not New York City.
Okay, but
No.
that would be the closest place for you to see them, I
Oh
think.
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's where I saw them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Everybody check out Jesse's work. I'll put up all of his links and everything on the blog post. Was there anything else, any parting words, advice for young actors and actresses out there?
Yeah, if you want to do this, guys, there's no way around it. It's hard. And I truly believe that the biggest reason people fail is not because they are untalented. It's not because they don't work hard. Not enough people treat showbiz like a biz. This is a business. And if you're going to study anything, as much as acting, study how the business works. Study how the decision makers interact. Study how certain things get chosen. And try to understand what goes on beyond the stage and beyond the camera as much as you can. A lot of the time it is a matter of who you know, but I think having more of a business mind will enable you to find people organically that you can build connections with.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jesse. We will
Thank
talk to you.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun. Thanks, Anthony. He's brought me the most people out of everybody. So thanks, Anthony. Um, but I will talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.